Auction yard heat swam in waves, the kind that boiled sweat into salt and made the wind moan low through busted slats and broken hopes. Voices bargained over lives like sacks of grain. Ben Dillinger laid down 2 worn dollars. He didn't buy a woman, he bought time. Ayanna lifted her chin, eyes sharp as napped flint. "You'll regret this," she said. "I won't obey." Everyone knew the trafficker called the Ledger Man moved west by dusk, leaving numbers where names used to be. Ben's jaw tightened. He wasn't aiming to claim a servant, just to stop one more wound. When the gavel fell, the town turned away. Ben and Ayanna didn't. Ben removed the shackles as soon as they cleared the auction yard. They clattered to the dust like dropped sins. Ayanna didn't rub her wrists or thank him. She simply stepped back, spine straight, gaze cutting through him like a blade searching for truth. "You own nothing of me," she said. "Didn't buy you," Ben replied. "Bought a moment before they shipped you east." She didn't accept the explanation, not fully. She moved with caution, like someone who had learned the cost of trust early and often. She kept distance, not from fear, but from resolve. Dry Hollow seemed calmer that evening, though calm meant very little in a place built on silence. On the ridge sat the blackened remains of barns, burned last winter under suspicion of raiders. Folks didn't talk much about who lit the fires, but whispers always circled back to one man, the Ledger Man, the trafficker whose lists carved out fates like tally marks. Ayanna's people had crossed paths with that man. Ben saw it in the way her breath sharpened whenever the wind shifted from the west, carrying scents of old smoke. They camped outside town, a small fire flickering beneath the red dusk. Ben cleaned his revolver, hands steady but jaw clenched. The burned wagon train haunted him still, the one he failed to protect years prior. Guilt gnawed at him, quiet but constant. Ayanna finally spoke. "There was a camp," she said. "My camp. We saw smoke before we smelled the lie. When we got there, names were carved into a plank. My brother's among them." Ben set his tools down. "You think the Ledger Man did it?" "I know he did," her voice hardened. "And someone in Dry Hollow gave him the names." That tracked with Ben's suspicions. The council had too many locked doors and too many secrets weighted in their boots. They found first signs of the trail that same night. Iron-shod wheel marks heading west, mule prints, and tarps that stank of lye, a cleaner used only by traffickers and undertakers. Ben stood, dusted off his coat. "We ought to ride after him, but I won't give you orders." Ayanna met his gaze. "Good, because I don't follow orders. I follow purpose." "And what's that?" "To find the ledger," she said, "and the man behind it." Ben nodded once. "Then we strike a deal. Partners, until this is done." "No obedience," she added. "No ownership," he agreed. At dawn, with wind crawling cold across their backs, they mounted their horses and rode into the red canyons. Behind them, Dry Hollow shrank into dust. Ahead lay smoke, memory, and the numbers that had tried to erase her people. They followed the trail through sand that shifted like thoughts, never still, never certain. They needed proof, not just suspicion. And time slipped through their fingers like dust from a broken hourglass. Miller's Ford sat quiet under a sky smeared purple with afternoon heat. The ferryman, old Miller himself, stiffened when Ayanna stepped forward. Something about her stare cut straight through lies. He swallowed hard. "Cart crossed here at dawn," he muttered. Didn't see the driver's face. Ayanna stepped closer. "What did you smell?" Miller hesitated. "Lie," he whispered. "And smoke." Ben exchanged a look with her. That matched the camp she described. At the edge of the ford, they found a splintered crate with a burned brand on the corner, the same mark Ayanna remembered from her raided home. The trail sharpened, but danger sharpened with it. Near the cottonwood grove, 3 hired hands came out from behind the trunks, guns ready, jaws tight. Ben reached for his revolver, but Grit jammed the hammer. It clicked uselessly. Ayanna moved before he could curse. Silent as dusk, she slipped between shadows, her stone sling whirling. One hired hand dropped. Another lunged, she twisted, elbow driving into his throat. Ben grappled with the third, taking a punch to the ribs before slamming the man down. By the time the scuffle eased, two lay groaning, one unconscious. And a boy rider, no more than 12, trembled beside a mule tied beneath the trees. Ben approached gently. "You working for the Ledger Man?" The boy shook his head too fast, too scared. Ayanna noticed something sticking from his pocket, a torn scrap of paper. She plucked it free. It was part of a ledger page. Names were smudged but readable beneath the grime. Ben's face went cold. One name belonged to a councilman from Dry Hollow. The boy choked out the truth. The traffickers were moving west to a river crossing before nightfall. Storm clouds stacked over the horizon, thick as bruises. Ben holstered his revolver. "We ride." Ayanna nodded. "We don't stop until we find the man who keeps the numbers." They left the boy with water and the warning to run east and not look back. The wind picked up, carrying the promise of lightning. With the ledger scrap secured and a councilman implicated, they pushed toward the river crossing and the storm waiting above it. The river roared, swollen with storm runoff, feral and untrusting. Crossing would be deadly. And every hour they waited, the ledger man put more distance between them. They spurred their horses through rain so cold it felt like iron hitting bone. Lightning cracked the sky open, flashing white across their faces. Halfway across, Ayanna's rein mare slipped on slick stone. Her body pitched sideways. The current seized her like a hungry jaw. Without thinking, Ben threw a rope, bracing his feet against the rocks. "Grab it!" She caught the line just before the current swallowed her whole. Ben hauled with every ounce he had left, muscles screaming as he dragged her to shore. She lay panting, rain plastering hair to her face. He knelt beside her, breath ragged. "That was foolish," she muttered. "And letting you drown wouldn't help the mission." Her lips twitched, almost a smile. They found shelter under an overhanging stone. Ben lit a small fire, shielding it from wind. Ayanna hummed a low song, mournful, steady. "What's that?" "The names," she said. "We keep them alive in our songs." He turned the torn ledger scrap in his hands. "We'll give them more than songs." When the storm eased, they continued west. Eventually, a ruined outpost emerged from the darkness, charred beams jutting like broken ribs. Ben sifted through rubble, eyes narrowing. A tin cup lay half-buried, stamped with the councilman's initials. Ayanna's breath. "So he fed our names to the ledger man." Before Ben could reply, torchlight flickered outside. Riders, returning. They barely had time to slip into a cellar beneath the floorboards. But the riders noticed footprints. Smoke poured down through the cracks, thick, choking. "They're burning us out," Ben growled. He scanned the cellar by lantern light. A rusted hinge pin stuck from a crate. "Help me," he said. Ayanna braced as Ben jammed the hinge pin into the wall seam, using forged know-how from years past: pressure, angle, force. He kicked hard, the wall gave. Cold night air rushed in. They scrambled out into sagebrush as the outpost roared into flames, again. This time lit as bait for whoever followed the ledger man. Ayanna glanced back at the inferno reflecting in her eyes. "Then we follow him," she whispered. And they vanished into the wind. They reached the canyon storehouse by dawn. Buzzards circled overhead. The place smelled of tallow, mold, and secrets. "Stay sharp," Ben whispered. Inside, crates were stacked like coffins, each marked with brands used to track stolen lives and stolen goods. Ayanna climbed silently onto the rafters, moving with the agility of someone who had spent years avoiding shadows that hunted back. Ben stayed below, blade ready, breath steady despite the pain still lingering in his ribs. She spotted it first, a thick leather-bound book sitting atop a crate. The ledger. She dropped down silently, fingers brushing its spine. She flipped it open. Names, marks, ages, prices. And there, scrawled crude as mockery, $2. Her jaw clenched. Ben swallowed hard. A cruel joke. Footsteps, voices. Ayanna snapped the ledger shut and slid into the shadows. The councilman entered with the ledger man, tall, narrow-faced, wearing gloves too clean for honest work. "Shipment at dawn," the councilman muttered. "Then we erase the rest." Ayanna moved like night falling. Ben moved like a man with nothing left to lose. The lantern shattered first, Ayanna's doing. Darkness swallowed the room. Gunshots cracked. Splinters flew. Ben took a bullet to the shoulder but stayed upright, swinging the butt of his revolver into a skull. Ayanna snatched the ledger, diving behind crates as the ledger man fired wildly. Ben lunged, but the trafficker escaped through a chute beneath the floor, boots pounding into the canyon. The councilman wasn't so lucky. Ben's fist closed around the ring he wore, a symbol of corruption polished bright. Bloodied, they staggered outside. Pale light washed over the canyon. "We have proof," Ayanna said. "And the town has no idea what's coming," Ben answered. They saddled their horses. Dry Hollow waited, and so did Justice. Dry Hollow looked almost peaceful in early morning light, but beneath the calm lurked rot. Ben stumbled into the saloon, bleeding through his shirt, and slammed the ledger onto the card table. The room went silent. Ayanna stepped beside him. "These are the names of the burned," she said, cutting through smoke and lies alike. "My people, his people, your neighbors." Men exchanged glances. Some scoffed. One deputy reached for a rope instead of checking the pages. "We handle this the old way." Ben stepped forward despite the pain. "The old way is why this happened." But then, movement. The ferryman stepped in from the doorway, hat in hand. "I smelled the lie," he said. "Saw the crates." Behind him, the boy rider shuffled in, eyes down. The ranch wife from the burned barns followed, holding a scorched brooch. Witnesses, not ghosts. The room shifted, tension crackling. Then hoofbeats thundered outside. The ledger man rode straight into the street, guns ready to silence every witness before truth took root. Ayanna walked out to face him. Dust swirled around her boots. Ben followed. The trafficker smirked. "You want justice? Justice burns." Ayanna raised her gun, lined the shot with his heart. Her breath was steady. Her finger tightened. "Ben, don't let him make you like him." She exhaled slow, then fired, but not at him. The bullet struck the rope above him. The saloon sign crashed down, pinning him to the dirt. Ben kicked the gun from his hand and hauled him up by the collar. The town stood witness. The ledger lay open like a wound. Behind them, the councilman tried to slip away into the alley. The ferryman's levee hook stopped him cold. No one looked away this time. And as wind moaned low, Ayanna began reading names aloud. One by one, the town listened. Justice wasn't done just because the gun stopped. Truth needed marks, permanent ones. Ben fired up the forge in the livery barn. Sparks danced, hungry and bright. He heated an iron carved with the mark from the ledger's cover. Ayanna stepped into the glow, ash streaked on her cheek, dust on her palms, ritual for the dead and the living. She pressed her hands together. "For every name that was taken, we leave one that remains." Word spread fast, doors opened. Townsfolk brought scraps of evidence, rings pawned by traffickers, tokens stolen from families, ribbons cut from crates. Ben branded each reclaimed crate, marking them for return. Funds gathered from the seized goods were redistributed to the families harmed. For the first time in Dry Hollow's history, justice pointed downward, toward the oppressed, not upward toward the powerful. Night deepened. Flames cast long shadows. Ben wiped soot from his brow. "There's something I owe you." Ayanna folded her arms. "A debt?" "A truth." He told her about the wagon train, the screams, the smoke, the guilt that had followed him like a ghost wearing his boots. He had failed them. He thought freeing her would balance the scales. Ayanna's expression hardened, then softened like thawing frost. "You can't undo what burned," she said. "But you didn't run from this fire." Before he could answer, a spark leapt from the forge to the hay bales. Fire caught fast. "Move!" Ayanna shouted. They grabbed the ledger and staggered through the smoke as flames swallowed the barn. History tried to burn itself clean again, but they didn't let it. Outside, Ayanna ran her thumb over the leather cover. Not erased, preserved. Dawn crept pale and cold over Dry Hollow. The whole town waited, quiet, breath held, for the final word. Ayanna placed 2 cold coins, Ben's $2, into his palm. "Payment for time borrowed," she said. Ben closed her hand gently around them. "This land took enough. Let it not take what's left of us." She tucked the coins into the ledger, 2 circles among many lines, small but unforgotten. As sun climbed over Dry Hollow, 2 riders moved west. Wind at their backs, ledger secured, names remembered. The road long, the purpose clear. And somewhere beyond the horizon, justice waited for its next reckoning.